What's up, soldiers? Your boy Chris here, caribbeanpot.com, vibes it up in the kitchen as usual. We're doing a jerk pork in the oven. Now, traditionalists will say that's not jerk because you're doing the smoke and the... You know what? Go somewhere else with all your hate. We're doing a jerk pork in the oven with seasonal ingredients to Canada. This one is a Canadian jerk pork. You're gonna like this one, man. We just improvising with some local ingredients that I have here access to. And that pork, right now, it's going on in the oven there. And if you only smell, by the way, only owe me extra for this one, you know, because your whole kitchen, your house, everything will be smelling nice. Jerk pork in the oven, vibes it up, man. The first thing we'll be making is the marinade, and you'll need a blender or a food processor, or if you can cut things up very finely by hand, that is cool. We're gonna go in with some orange juice, and you may find that the marinade may be quite runny at this point, but we want that to reduce, and it's going to be later on it's going to become the sort of sauce for putting on top of this pork loin. And can't go wrong with a whole bunch of scallions, then I've got here 3 cloves of garlic that I just smashed with the back of my knife, some cinnamon, allspice and nutmeg, and I have here 1 large onion that I gave a rough chop to. And the whole idea here is to make this full of flavor because we want to marinate that pork with it, and as I said later on, that's going to become the base for the for the sauce, for the dressing for this. I'm going to go in with some salt, and I'm not going to go too heavy with the salt because right away I'm going in with soy sauce, and that will have that sort of sodium element as well too, right? If you're worried about doing this gluten-free, be sure to take a close look at the ingredients on that soy sauce, because that's probably the only ingredient that will have something close to being non-gluten friendly. I have here a whole bunch of fresh thyme. And here's where my sort of Canadian take on this will go in: flavors of the fall, and it goes well with pork. I have here apple cider, fresh chopped habanero pepper from my garden, seeds and everything, and habanero peppers grows really nice here in Canada. You'll get that nice fruity heat from it. If you want to add some more, you can add some more. If you want to keep this original and go in with scotch bonnet peppers, do your thing, it's all up to you. And I have here, for instead of using brown sugar as I usually do, I'm using some organic maple syrup. And again, flavors of the fall. All we would do now is pulse that. Look at all that goodness in there. We're going to pulse that, make it nice and smooth, and then we're going to dress up the pork with it. Here I have my pork loin, and you'll notice there's a bit of fat on here. I want to keep that because the loin, and keep in mind this is not tenderloin, this is loin, a cheaper cut. I like that fat there because it's going to rend it down and it's going to help add some moisture to this. Couple ingredients you could have added to the marinade: a couple pieces of ginger as well as some black pepper. And here we go. I'm just going to pour that all over that pork here now. I'm going to work that in there and let that marinate overnight, or at least 4 hours. My oven is preheating to 375, so 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and I have here a disposable baking tray. Nobody in trying to clean up nothing after. And I have it here with some apples. This is 4 large apples that I just cut into wedges. And again, building on that whole flavors of the fall. And we all know apples and pork goes good together, right? So I'm just going to transfer the pork loin onto here now. It may get a little bit messy. I'm about to say what? I don't have to answer to anybody. So I'm just going to sit it, just move it around a little bit. And then I'm going to pour all that marinade in here because we're using everything. So here we go. It's going to go on the metal rack in the oven, and I want this to go at 375, as I said, and I'm going to put it in there. Now this is about 7, closer to 8 pounds. I'm thinking maybe 3 hours. I want it nice and slow, and ever so often we're just going to baste it. Take some of the marinade on the bottom there, toss it on the top. Yeah man, you're looking for real niceness here. It's been going in the oven now for about an hour and a half. As you can tell, I had it uncovered. If you want, you can cover it, but I really want that fat to render down. Remember, we started off with that cap of fat on the top here. It's not burned, so don't fret about that. Your kitchen is going to have that lovely scent of these cooked apples along with that allspice and cinnamon, and it all works. Trust me on this one here. So it's going to go back in the oven now. I want this to continue cooking. And remember to keep basting it. That's the key here, is for it not to dry out too much, right? It's been in the oven now for about 3.5 hours. And I want you guys to peep something here. Notice all the liquid here now. A couple things I want you to peep. The amount of liquid and how much that pork has shrunk. The reason why you're seeing so much liquid here is the last hour I've had tin foil over it, and that allowed all those juices to really form nicely there. I'm going to do 2 things here. I'm going to remove the pork from here. Then I'm going to drain all that liquid, well 90% of that liquid, into a pot. We're going to make our sort of sauce or gravy with it. Put the pork back in here and stick it back in the oven so all the undersides everywhere. And you can flip it if you want. We'll get that nice color. We're almost there, trust me. So there's all that liquid. I'm going to reduce that down now. We're going to add a couple ingredients to that and reduce it. And here we've got that pork. We're going to go back into the oven with it. Middle rack, still at 375. I have it on a medium flame here, and the whole idea now is to bring that, to reduce it and bring it down to a nice sort of sauce. It's probably like an au jus or something like that. But I went into my cupboard, into my fridge, looking for my homemade jerk barbecue sauce. I do have the recipe on caribbeanpot.com. However, it grew legs, it walked away. I don't know where it is. So I'm just going in with some of my favorite store-bought barbecue sauce in there. Give that a good stir, and the final ingredient you'll need is later on. Bring this up to a boil, then to a rolling boil, and let it reduce by about half. But near the end, taste it for salt, and that is the second ingredient you'll want to add. It took about 20-25 minutes or so. It's reduced down considerably from where I started off. Taste it for salt at this point. It should have a little body to it. It's a little bit thicker than how we started off, but this is perfect as it is. Just gonna set that aside and wait for the pork now. In total, it took 4 hours in the oven at 375 on that middle rack. What I would do now, I would tend to do with some tin foil, allow it to relax, and then you can carve into it. It may fall apart almost like pulled pork, but nobody ain't complaining about that. Chris here, caribbeanpot.com, Canadian influenced jerk pork. Them apples serve your purpose already. You can toss that out if you want, man. I ain't really too worried about that. So we've got that jerk pork, we've got that sort of nice gravy to put on top of it and over there. So I mean to say, you can't see it. Hold on, let me show you. Right over there. A nice rice and peas, or peas and rice, however you want to call it. But anyways, enjoy, man.